Since launching this podcast, I've realised there are far more of us birding than you might think.
There's the green one, the one that it feeds on the worms in the garden, so they're very distinct where they are.
They're wonderful. They go to the edges of the grass,
Yes.
don't they? The green woodpecker.
Including two women who spent years soundtracking the nation's mornings and our nights.
I feed the birds and we have lots of blue tits and all kinds of tits, and then a couple of robins as well.
I always feel like they chat to me. It's like conversation that you have with them.
They're now sharing their passion for gardening and wildlife on their own podcast, Dig It. Zoe Ball and Joe Whiley. When did you both become interested in bird watching and that?
Well, it's something that comes later in life, I think. You know, because when you're young, you're busy off, living a rock and roll lifestyle, out and about and gadding about and being young, and life can be quite fast. And there just comes a point in your life, and I found it with so many friends, that there's a point where you just need to slow down and stop. And it's been so therapeutic to both Joe and I being out in nature and our gardens. And once you start taking an interest in the birds that are either coming to your garden or you're seeing in your local park or about in the skies, once you start learning about them, they're just such incredible, beautiful creatures. And we are so lucky to be surrounded by such an amazing collection of birds. And it's so wonderful. And when I don't particularly recognise bird song, but I do love the chatter sometimes when I think, what is that making that chattery racket? And you go outside and you're like, oh, right, okay, that's the gathering of the tits. Or there's, learning about the time of day that they come to feed and the little gangs that come to the bird feeder and stuff.
I go on dog walks and I have those apps, the bird apps. I think Merlin is the one that I use. And you just hear all this, the noise of the bird song, and you just go, it's magic to me that you can hold your phone up and it will tell you what is all around you and tell me about the species and how common they are. I think it's incredible.
I tell you what, living in the city, I do miss. We used to have tawny owls, and we were in the countryside and we had tawny owls, and that's when I learnt about the twit and the two being a conversation between two different birds. And I'm like, this, which is amazing. And that I found out they were tawny owls by listening to it. We heard the young calling for the parents who obviously were out hunting at night. And we found that on an app. So it was like, they're tawny owls. I lived there for years, didn't see them at all. I was in the middle of Richmond, and we heard, I was like, that's a tawny owl. And we looked up in the middle of Richmond and there was this beautiful tawny owl in the tree. Because it feels like such a treat sometimes when you see them. It's pretty special.
It is special. It's quite exotic, isn't it, to see an owl and a barn owl in the daylight. Sometimes I've often seen that, but that's an incredible sight as well. Yeah.
We moved into a barn conversion, so I always felt like we moved into a whole community that was here already. So the rooks have obviously lived here for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we were just the latest inhabitants, and we coexist with them. And then the longer you live here, the more you realise the same birds return every single year at certain times. So we've got a woodpecker that is in the back of the house, and it comes and feeds. And it's I don't know what it's called, but it's the black one with the white spots and the red head. So that's in the back of the house. At the front, there's the green one, the one that it feeds on the worms in the garden, so they're very distinct where they are.
They're wonderful. They go to the edges of the grass,
yes,
don't they?
Yeah.
The green woodpecker.
We have these amazing herons that exist. I don't know whether herons live in pairs particularly, but we've got one heron who's there winter after winter after winter, and it's so majestic and it's so beautiful, and it flies across, and it's like a pterodactyl when it goes across the garden, and all the kids get really excited to see it. And then recently another one came, and I presume they were mating, so I'm kind of... but you never see baby herons.
No, you don't, do you? I wonder if
No.
Where are they?
they're like tiny little herons walking about. No,
With the little legs.
I love that.
and the legs growing very slowly.
But they're amazing birds, and it's kind of just being aware of it. We live in this house, but all around us are these birds that live, and they all live in their certain areas, and they do their certain thing, and we all kind of coexist. But it's really life enhancing. It really is. It's like a party that's just never ending.
I used to have a rook. When I was at school, there was a big rook, loads of trees, and the rookery was right next to us, massive. And somebody had chuck his stones at this one. It broke its arm, and I took it back home and had it for about 4 years. A rook, called it Joe Crow, even though it were a rook.
They're very intelligent, aren't they? They're beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah, and it used to follow me around everywhere, just that, and I had to get up. The trouble is, about 5 o'clock in the morning, before I went to, before school, but it was going, wah, rah, rah, and I used to get up, I'd get a tin of dog meat, get half a tin of dog meat, and it go, oh. I could go back to bed for a bit, and but it was a fantastic animal.
So we used to have a seagull called Max who would come and visit, and he would tap on the window for Woody to feed him. And my son, Woody, would talk. So the seagull would go, bap, bap, and he'd say, bap, bap. And they'd have this really mad little conversation, and they're quite amazing. And I love that sound of the blackbirds. I mean, that sound is it feels like such a British sort of sound, doesn't it? It's like so beautiful. The simplicity of birdsong is it's so good for the soul. And it's free.
Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.